If you need to record a podcast remotely, riverside.fm is the place to do it. Alex and I have been making Two Dudes Watch Cartoons remotely across states, pretty much across the continental US for 3 years now. We've tried several things, and this is what works best, honestly.
Zoom turned out terrible. We used a couple other ones that we paid for that turned out terrible.
You're looking at the interface right now. I think I'm doing the screen record correctly.
Riverside has made doing this podcast as easy as possible. Riverside FM.
Head to the link in our bio to get started. That's riverside.fm. Today.
Hey, watch this episode on YouTube.
Two dudes watch cartoons. Two dudes watch cartoons. Two dudes watch cartoons. Two dudes watch cartoons. Yeah.
Welcome back to Two Dudes Watch Cartoons. I fucked it up already. Welcome back to Two Dudes Watch Cartoons. Wait, no.
What? You had it.
In the beginning. The podcast where two dudes, that's us, watch cartoons. I was missing the that's us, and I forgot where it went. It's been a while. We've been on hiatus. I took a little bit of parental leave, but we're back. We're here.
We're back. Better than ever. I'm gonna pitch something. We haven't discussed this at all. Is this season 2? Are we in our second season? Everything before this season 1.
Sure. Why
New
not?
Era. Why
you know
not?
What? Why not? I like the idea of putting in breaks. So
Yeah. We took a month off. It's season 2. We're back.
Season 1 was 66 episodes and
that's right. 3
years long.
Yeah. There's no rules.
No rules.
We did it. We made it through season 1 though. But no, we're back. Evan, like he said, you took some paternity leave, correct?
Yeah.
We know you had a baby. Tell the audience though, like how exciting it is. I'm jazzed about it.
It is about as difficult as I was prepped for as I expected. It is hard. It's difficult. Sleep is hard to come by, but I was sort of mentally prepared for that. But like once the exhaustion hits you, it just takes it to a different level. But every little moment, every little coo and like smile, it's exciting. It's been a wild ride. He's about a month old now.
He's
good,
just
man.
Adorable. He's just the
He's
cutest
the
baby. I am biased, but he's our third dude. I also figured this could be a good reason to bring the podcast back though, because if you're not catching up on your sleep, I know you love to catch a quick nap while whatever we're recording or while whatever we're watching.
True. I have been catching up on One Piece.
The best
almost,
nap. Yeah.
Almost 200 episodes in now.
I can't believe that.
Only watching like on mute, subtitles while he's sleeping.
Wait, you watch it on mute?
Most of the time, yeah.
This is news to me. I didn't know
I miss a lot of the story. I just kind of like look up from my phone every now and then, and it's like, oh, there's a new character. That's pretty cool. I've been enjoying it though.
So many new characters, so many new devil fruits. It's great.
We'll get
well, that's not what we're talking about today, though.
Today we're talking about Boss Baby. No.
Yeah.
No. Today we're talking about this one came out of the blue. I almost forgot it was going to happen at all in the first place. Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake, and I still want to call it HBO Max, but it's Max series.
So what's so interesting about this is Adventure Time ends, and kind of shortly after it ends, they were like, we're doing a spinoff, Distant Lands, 4 episodes. I was like, oh, it's not done. And then that ended, and it was all like, oh, it's over. We're back. Like, and so I'm in a decade of reboots, rehashes, spin-offs. I was nervous. I was so nervous, even when I watched the trailer for it, because the trailer got me good, and I love a good gotcha. The trailer had me think this takes place in the modern world in a city, and it was all like the gender bent. We've got to get into the details of this, but it's Fionna and Cake is like 2, maybe 3 episodes of Adventure Time, the series, where Ice King is reading a fan fiction that he wrote, and it's just a gender bent version of every character in the Land of Ooo. So
It's a fanfic. I don't know if you said that. It's
yeah. It's a fanfic but so yeah, so
that he
it's
wrote.
all in Ice King's imaginations and writings, which is just so great. But so I was like, how's this gonna work? Why are they in the? I thought this was like unrelated to everything Ooh wise, and I was like, this is stupid. We don't need this. I was a hater.
I never watched Adventure Time all the way through. I like have kept up with, the general storyline I'm familiar with. Fan of the series, casual, I would say. But especially after the last Distant Lands, I was a little bit nervous because I don't want to spoil it, but there's quite a sense of finality with that one in particular. It puts a nice bow on Adventure Time and Finn and
Yeah.
Jake as a series. So when I first heard about this, it did seem a touch like a cash grab, but
Cash grab. It's a
yeah,
cash grab.
if there were like any group of storytellers or creators to trust to remain truthful to the original spirit of Adventure Time, because also Adventure Time created by Pendleton Ward back in 2013 or 14. I think it's like 9-ish years old. I saw somewhere.
Wow.
But he left the series, or no, he stepped down as showrunner, maybe like 5-6 seasons in. So, but I mean, the series has. I don't think anyone has ever been like, oh, it fell off, or oh, the
All right.
post Pendleton seasons are way worse, or anything
I got the
like that.
facts. Yeah, I was gonna say I actually didn't even know that Pendleton Ward left, if I'm being honest. But so
I don't know if
started
he's
in
still involved. but
2010
yeah.
and it ended in 2018,
Okay.
which in Distant Lands, that means Distant Lands came out or at least was like announced like a year or two after it started 2020, 2021-ish.
Mhm.
So like they give it like these couple year breaks and they're like, we're back. But like you said, if there's a group of storytellers of people that care about like the product that they're putting out there, this was the group, because this was so like, if this was a cash grab, I don't even care. They put so
Oh, yeah.
much time, effort, thought into this. And what's so great about Adventure Time 2 is I really feel it has just been constantly growing with its audience. Even in its 10 seasons airing, Finn, one of the things I always like credit to the show is Finn grows, he ages. Like
And
he
it's always
goes
been the same voice actor.
same voice actor who
And you can
his
sort of
voice has
tell his voice gets a little bit older, a little bit lower.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
great.
and it's still him in this.
Mhm.
We get to see Finn in this. I'm telling you, Fiona and Cake was such a joy to me because I had such low expectations. They extremely knocked it out of the park. I think this was brilliant. We're just jumping ahead now. Do you have like a synopsis? Let's get into that before we really dive in. A synopsis. Let me close the
all right.
store too.
Yeah, this is from Wikipedia. The series focuses on the titular characters Fiona and Cake, alternative versions of main characters Finn the human and Jake the dog from the original series, who had previously appeared in their own titular episodes, along with the Ice King as his human form, Simon Petrikov. That's not really a okay. Maybe I should. Okay, here's a synopsis. That was the
Yeah.
introduction of Wikipedia.
That out. Let me do one. I got one right here. All right. Fiona lives with her cat, Cake, in an alternate reality without magic, spending her days cycling through dead-end jobs. At night, she dreams of a magical world that appears to be forever unreachable. Simon, in the Land of Ooo, works from home, made a living of being an exhibit of a bygone era. Later, the trio travels through the multiverse while still being chased by a powerful new antagonist who is determined to track them down and erase them from existence.
Now, one thing about that synopsis, and one thing I was concerned about with the trailers that I was seeing, is that the original characters Fiona and Cake, they were gender
Not real.
bent versions of Finn and Jake, created by Natasha Allegri, who is a storyboard artist on the original Adventure Time, who is our favorite series, maybe not favorite, but one of our favorite series that things we've watched recently. is Bee and Puppy Cat. She's the creator of Bee and Puppy Cat, and
Yep.
so she created this. And as I was watching the trailer and the first few episodes, I was like, this is just right off the bat. The first episode, I was like, oh, I'm a little concerned that this might be very similar to Bee and Puppy Cat, where she
Yeah.
goes to different worlds and has different costumes and get-ups and kind of has one-off adventures. But I'm happy to say that that wasn't necessarily the case.
I thought it was a reskin of Bee and Puppy Cat. Here's one of my complaints.
Mm-hmm.
Kamal is in Bee and Puppy Cat. Did not reprise the role of Prismo in this.
It was different.
You couldn't even tell? It was so bad.
I
Didn't
that
even sound like him, if I'm being honest.
Wow.
Why?
Honey.
What's that about? They got almost everyone else. There's missing one other. They got Donald Glover to come back though for his tiny part in Adventure Time. And the other one they're missing is Neil Patrick Harris.
You
He
wanna
did
know
not
why?
reprise the.
Because the series, you want to know why? This is my guess.
Oh.
Because the series is on Max, which is owned by Warner Brothers. I'm sure they're not grabbing any cash. Like I'm sure they couldn't pay for Kumail Nanjiani.
That's crazy
As opposed to
though.
Netflix.
Yeah,
As opposed to
Netflix money. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. All right. But so
Or
as
they
we were
spent all their
talking,
budget
this,
on Donald Glover.
this follows Fiona and Cake, in their boring, mundane life, which is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, just modern day. Maybe like 2010. Honestly, is where it looks like it takes place in a big city. And while I was dreading it in the trailer, it ended up actually being some of the most fun, was just exploring the city and her dead-end jobs. There's a fun little intro where it's like super existential dread, but it's like hyper pop. I was like, Adventure Time is back. Like this so well encapsulated everything Adventure Time was about, but also, in my mind, elevated it. Like, I'm not kidding. I have the highest praises for this. I was blown away from start to finish how much I enjoyed this.
Yeah, and I think that is to the strength of Adventure Time in general is the jokes here are, I don't want to say raunchy, but they're a little more, this is made for an adult audience. That I guess you could call it adult animation. But the pacing of the jokes, the writing is on par. It sounds exactly the same. It doesn't miss a beat as what original Adventure Time was, and that's probably what some of the strength of Adventure Time was back in the day. Was like it is just flat out very funny. Like the randomness, everything about that world and the style of writing is just works so well and translates across age, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is really, I agree. It's designed, while this is more raunchy and definitely airs on the side of for adults, you can show this to a kid and they're going to love it. You know what I mean? They're going to absolutely eat this up. So, what I want to get into is probably go maybe character by character. I think that may be easier. But before we even get into that, I think the best thing they did here is that they were like, oh, we got a show, Fiona and Cake. This was such a sneaky Simon Petrikov show.
Let's start with Simon Petrikov.
Let's start with the man.
I know the backstory of the character now, but the part where Adventure Time started to dive into like his backstory and Marceline's backstory and everyone else's is probably where I like fell off the series. But Simon Petrikov is a human form. Yeah, so I've only seen like the whimsical
the whimsical lack
not much of the world building stuff. But Simon Petrikov is the human form of Ice King. So what happened to Ice King towards the end of give me a quick refresher on the Ice King.
Let me fill you
Get
in
us
on
to
Mr. Ice King here. Ice King, as we learned, was one of the very few survivors of the apocalypse that happened here on Earth. And he, in Adventure Time, they call the Mushroom War. And so some sort of nuclear fallout. He survives with Marceline, and the way he survives is through one of the ancient artifacts that he found while he was alive, that he studied. He was like an Indiana Jones type guy, I think, like that, in that regard. Found the crown, the ice crown, and it gave him magical properties and let him live. It also drove him insane. So then over the years, in order for him to live, he just wore the crown 24/7. And that's where we meet him in Adventure Time. We slowly learn his backstory, his relation with Marceline, and eventually we find out that he, in the past, just Betty vanished. Betty, the love of his life. He didn't know where she went. Turns out she got pulled to the future. So she is now in Adventure Time Prime. She takes the place of Magic Man. I don't know if you know Magic Man at all. He's a whimsical villain that they had, but she gets
Where's
unlimited reality bending powers, where she then goes on a quest to try to save Ice King and Simon. She eventually becomes Golb, which is their god, that red, yeah. And well, he like devours her and him, and this is the very last episode. She Golb devours Simon, Betty, and Finn's in there. It's a shrinking cage, a la Loki. If you watch this week's episode, shrinking cage like this, and they deliver some of the most heartfelt, most intense things ever. And then the power of singing and love and friendship ends up saving them. But Betty sacrifices herself and becomes infused with Golb.
Okay.
So now,
and this is all in the main series.
This is all main series. And then we get Distant Lands, and they really don't touch too much on Simon. I think he shows up once, but it's not anything of consequence by any means.
Did you watch all the Distance Lands? Those ones were a little hit
or miss.
Yeah.
So there was a couple that were great, and some of them were really bad.
There was there was one on BMO and one on the little peppermint candy guy.
The peppermint candy one was good. The ending one was good. The BMO one was not good. And then there's one I'm missing, but I don't
Marceline and Marceline's backstory. It's like the little glass boy.
with her mom. With her mom, that one was good too. Yeah. So I really like Distant Lands. This though, just like I said, it really took this. I think it did what Adventure Time did great, is it took almost like a separate story, and we got to visit all of the loose ends from Adventure Time and Distant Lands while following this separate story. And it was just so beautifully told. Like even the touches, the very first scene before we know what's going on in this whole multiverse, she wakes up and her little alarm clock's just BMO, but it's like a real life alarm clock. Like the details that this show did, like the details that this show had, references to the older one, is just unreal. But so Ice King, now having lost Betty, doesn't have his powers. He's very much a Captain America, a man out of time. He opens this human exhibit where he lets people come see how people lived from the 21st century. But then at night, he's secretly trying to bring Betty back.
That's a lot of backstory. And I mean, it's all fascinating stuff, even without having that familiarity. I don't think I have ever seen or heard of Betty.
Yeah.
So that whole plot line is new to me. I vaguely knew about Simon Petrikoff's backstory in the Ice King with Marceline. So even without knowing all that, this series on its own is still super compelling television. It doesn't rely necessarily on like the nostalgia
knowledge
of that series. Like this is just a well-told story. And if you told me, if I watched this first and you told me the man voicing Simon Petrikoff also voices SpongeBob SquarePants, I would be like, get the fuck out of here, because the amount of gravitas he can and despair he conveys in some of the later episodes, I was floored.
I'm so happy. Tom Kenny, I'm so happy that he got something that wasn't Ice King or SpongeBob, because he really showed like why he gets the big checks. He is, well, when we talk about great voice acting, we're usually not talking about someone making like a voice like this. It's conveying emotion through what they're telling. And he was the heart and soul of this whole show, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, so good. Like you said, he had gravitas, so much emotion towards the end. So, but what's really funny, and maybe we could use this as a transition to switch over to Fiona, is I only realized this when preparing for the podcast. Fiona and Simon both have problems, but they're almost like the opposite problems of each other. Like Fiona wants to go live in a crazy fantasy world and escape her boring, mundane life, and all Simon wants is to go back to his
To a normal-
boring, mundane life.
Look at that. Look at that parallel.
Yeah.
Great connecting of the dots. This is why we podcast. This is why we season
podcast.
2,
How great-
baby.
It's great. You know what? Oh, it's so good because the whole, it's just so, it's so true to Adventure Time in the sense that it's always this like, this balance of like this fantasy world and like your wants and your dreams and just living carefree and like a child and doing whatever for the sake of doing whatever. But then it also is like balancing like the harsh realities of the world that you live in.
Mhm. And Adventure Time as a whole, I think, paved the way for that era of animation. I don't know if
renaissance
we're
of
still
animation.
in it, but we got Steven Universe after that. We got OKKO. I think
The whole tree is
Rebecca
quite
Sh-
crazy.
yeah. I think
Of
Rebecca
people
Sugar
who worked,
did
Rebecca
work
Sugar
on.
worked on Adventure Time, and so it all trickles down. It's a really crazy tree of all these animation showrunners having worked with each other.
Yeah.
While we're talking about Rebecca Sugar, the music throughout the series was, I forget that that's such a strength in Adventure Time because there are shows that do it probably better. But Adventure Time, the music, even just like background ambient music, like I said, the theme song for the first episode was so good. It elevates the scene and the emotions that are going on.
So we're talking about Fiona now. Fiona Campbell. I didn't know she had a last name. Voiced by Madeline
I think that might
Martin.
actually be Finn's last name too.
Oh, interesting.
Oh wait, no, I don't know Finn's last name. It might be
It's
Martin's.
the human. No,
That's what that's what he's learned. Yeah, for so long. But then we meet his dad. His dad's in this too. Wow. So
Mertens.
many of these references might have flown over your head. Do you know Finn's dad?
I do know Finn's dad. I think that
Oh,
was
okay.
probably one of the last episodes
Gotcha,
that I had like
So he
sequentially
pops up-
watched.
This is what I'm saying though, is you don't necessarily need to have known the show, but like these tiny things that pop up, like this version of Martin that doesn't have Finn, of course, is like the only one that has his shit together.
But there is a baby Finn there, right?
That they brought from a different
From a
universe
different- okay.
that he
All right,
connects
all right.
with.
Yeah, I got you.
It's great. This is also, I keep comparing this to Marvel, and maybe it's just because everyone's talking about Marvel
Let's get into
the multiverse saga gone awry, Marvel style. This is how you tell a multiverse story. This is how you keep it interesting and fresh. It's not just, while it is just jumping from world to world, there's like a point to it, and you learn something from each of these worlds. It's not just like a tourist destination stop.
That's exactly the problem with Marvel's handling of the multiverse is, and what's frustrating is that they have glimpses of it in Loki.
Yeah.
Season 1 and now season 2 is going fucking great. You can see how multiversal stories handle things well in Loki, in Fiona and Cake, and Everything Everywhere All at Once in
Yes.
Spider-Verse 1 and 2. It's not about the fucking multiverse. It's not about slapping in like terrible facial hair on Benedict Cumberbatch and giving like giving him like a top bun. Like it's about the emotional through lines of the story. It's like at the end of the day, the heart of these movies is I don't want to say small. Small is not necessarily the right word, but it's like compact. It's concise. It's the relationships between between Fiona and her friends, and ultimately how she feels about herself.
A lot of it comes down to, so I just think of, we go to the farm world, which is notorious. That was an Adventure Time, like 2-part episode we get where the timeline is totally changed. I don't remember. Oh, it's the first time they meet Prismo. And it's Finn wishes, I wish the Lich never existed. And that creates this wild and crazy farm world land, which we go and visit in this one. We see Finn as an adult there, and he's got a family. And what's so funny to me, it's not funny, but what I've realized, the strength of like the multiverse, like if Everything Everywhere All at Once like taught us like the different lives out there, the paths not taken, it's about decisions. It is about like, I made this decision and that caused this to happen versus this to happen. And it's such an interesting portrayal because in a wild cockamamie like show, they really are like, oh, well, because this world's totally skewed, wild, different, crazy, but it's so fun to visit. But it's not nonsensical like the ones we're hopping around in Doctor Strange. There's reason to it all.
It's not in this world. We actually stop on green and go on red.
Yeah, there's one who's like, the
Fucking
one,
hated that
this was
movie.
actually funny. I was about to make fun of it, but when she goes, wait, food on your planet isn't free? I was like, oh, that's pretty classic, actually.
Oh, good dig, Marvel. Good capitalism dig. They've been catching a lot of flack lately.
But so, yeah, we're adding on. I just wish I could go through like every reference to,
so you've seen all of it. You
twice,
clearly
baby.
have an encyclopedic knowledge of all these references.
Twice over, baby. This show jam packs them, but like you said, it's not reliant on it. It's not the punchline. It's not the shtick. It's not the joke of the scene. It's just there. And if you know it, you can enjoy it. You can be the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. If you don't know it, it does not detract away from what you're watching. And I can't state that is what an Easter egg is. An Easter egg is not a punchline to a scene. Oh, look at this reference. It just is there because, and it's so good. Like just every person we saw on Fiona's Way was someone, and like they're all talking about their dreams on the bus. He's like, I dream I'm a banana. Because you're a banana guard. You are a banana guard, sir. And then the one lady with the flowers in her, she's like, my dream's too weird. And it's like, because you're that giant whispering hole that sings the song. Yeah, that's why. It's like, you don't need to understand these things, but when you watch it, you're just like, oh, wait, I get that. I get that. It's good. It reminds me why I love like Easter eggs and references in the first place. And when they're not beaten to death, even though this one did beat them to death, like it's in everything that happens is some sort of reference.
Oh, for sure.
But it never felt forced or like over the top. It just felt like it was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I love this.
this is only tangentially related, but I feel like Adventure Time as a whole, the series, it's the maturity, but also not of it. In a lot of ways, Pendleton Ward's world that he built is sort of like what inspired this pod, because you see reverberations of it in Bravest Warriors, and like this is our jam. It's like there's so much to appreciate here. It's super quality, like concise storytelling and writing, super funny writing. It's like some of the best television and like comedy, all of it combined.
It is
in a kid's show.
Yeah, it's top-notch storytelling and humor, really wrapped and hidden and disguised in a kid's broadcasting network. Like he really gamed the system. Oh, look, Cartoon Network, I have a guy who fights in a candy kingdom and he's got a dog who stretches. And he was like, but secretly there was a nuclear war that happened and everyone here is radiation poison over the years and years and years. And you're like, whoa, Pendleton, you clearly didn't tell him that part. But it was so brilliant and it opened the door for all of these other shows. And I don't want to get sentimental, but like you said, this is the sort of shit that we started the podcast for. I'm going to really out us here. Don't listen if you are our family. Me and Evan, we come home, Thanksgiving break. It's right around this time of year. We fucking close both my bathroom doors. We shove towels under the doors. And my bathroom's like really long, so we set up chairs, my computer. We open this tiny-ass window, and we just get high as shit. And we spent like 6-7 hours watching cartoons in my bathroom. Bravest Warriors. We watched all of that. We found the Rick and Morty pilot. We watched Bee and Puppy Cat. We watched all these sort of indie animation things, and we left just being mind blown. We're like, there's people out there telling the most mind blowing stories that so many people are just gonna miss. Because it is animated and they will write it off because of that. And so, like I said, I'm not trying to be sentimental, but this is the shit. we started the podcast for. What a great opener to season 2. Wow. Wow.
Full circle moment.
I'm jazzed right now. Holy shit.
What were we talking about? The multiverse, though. Like, yeah, it's such a shame that now at this point, the multiverse, it used to be like an exciting new thing, and this was just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And now you hear that. I mean, I feel like it's hit the point, like the multiverse is what a shared cinematic universe was a couple of years ago, where after Marvel, maybe first Avengers, like every studio was like, and now the Universal Monsters shared cinematic universe with Tom Cruise's The Mummy. But like now it's like the multiverse. I didn't watch Ahsoka, but I think there were maybe hints of some sort of multi-dimensional.
Don't tell me that. No, I don't believe that. Okay. I will say, though,
I think it was
as soon as they started talking about the multiverse, I said we are 5 to 8 years from seeing Marvel and Star Wars characters on screen together.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we've hit saturation point on multiverse stuff, and I'm glad to see that someone is out here still executing it well. But two, it's just like, why does it take? Like, why do we only get very sparse good executions of it now?
Okay, that's Fiona, kind of. Wait, what did we miss on Fiona?
Fiona's a not stoner, maybe not stoner, but that's the vibe. Like
20-something,
aimless 20-something.
lackadaisical.
A lot of ennui, a new character in.
Don't. Speaking from my heart, she has a ton of ennui. She's got so much ennui, she doesn't even know it's falling out of her.
Loves Cheers. Does Warner Brothers own Cheers?
I don't. Well, that's a reference once again to the original Adventure Time, all the way back from when Simon was trying to comfort Marceline after the post-apocalyptic when she's a child. He would put on a little cardboard TV and play reruns of Cheers is filmed in front of a live studio audience where everybody knows your name. And so because this world is inside Simon Petrikoff's head,
gotcha.
That's also the thing he only plays on the TV. That's all that's on in their universe. I thought that was a fun little bit. Like,
a nice touch.
Once you watch it again, you're like, oh, wow, this universe is inside Simon's head. Like, I understand now. There's signs. There's hints. Because then all the sculptures are Betty or penguins. You're like, wow, this actually is inside Simon's head. Like, it looks like a real world. It looks like New York or like Los Angeles or something. Looks like New York, albeit not Los Angeles. There's a difference. There's a difference, people. Yeah. And so, God, if anything, it looks more like a Detroit. Okay, so, but it's so well written. Like I said, those things aren't in your face, so there's never like a moment where she goes, "Oh, so that's who it was on the statue." They never talk down to their audience, and I fucking love that because they've been following us since 2010. You know what I mean? They've kept up with the times. Evan and I are wannabe movie critics. We're also wannabe chefs.
We're all doing more cooking at home now. If you want to elevate your home cooking, you need nice tools to do it. Louis Kitchenware will get you there. They have beautiful stainless steel pans, non-stick bakeware, knives, all the stuff you need. Safe, high-quality materials, constructed to last, made in the United States. Founded in Detroit.
Moving into my condo, we got hand-me-downs. So this new Louis Kitchenware has been great, and we love the discount. We want to share that with our listeners.
You can use code 2DUDES, that's TWO dudes, at louiskitchenware.com, and that'll give you 10% off anything on the site.
Check out our link in bio.
Two dudes watch cartoons.
Who else do we have in
Cake? Let's talk about Cake. Cake is voiced by Roz Ryan, who I only recognize the name because she's one of the singers from Hercules. One of the people on the
one
pot.
Of the muses.
Is that what
so
they are? Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and so I just recognize the voice, if that makes sense, and it has always stuck with me over the years. So when I first heard her voice in the originals, I had to look it up, and of course, they got the original voice, which was great. And I really like the journey they took with Cake from real cat to cat in a different dimension that had a talking necklace and then had a giant strawberry, and then it's like, well, she has the great line where the squirrel was like, "Oh, I'm glad. I bet you're glad to be back to your regular size." She goes, "I am, but it's nice to have options." And I'm just like, that's just the subtle, great fucking humor of this show.
I was reading a review of the series, and one of the things that I think this series does well, or this review, I'm just badly parroting what this review said, but like, so
Could have
there
totally
is,
passed it off as your own.
yeah, there's all this nostalgia wrapped up with this series, right? There's so much backstory, so much lore, and obviously this series is Fionna and Cake specifically is a little bit more mature as the audience has grown older, but this story is a little bit about learning to deal with change and letting go of that attachment, especially with Simon Petrikov
Let's
and
cook,
Betty.
baby.
But
Let's cook.
on a more meta, because like I could see how maybe a longtime fan would be like, why can't it be more Finn and Jake or something along those lines?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's meta. There's people who are pissed it's the gender bent version because they're just misogynist, I guess. They're like, oh, well, it's not the same as when I was a kid. Like, and it's so fucking lame and played out. And like,
Yeah.
so what's great about what you said is, like I said, Fiona and Simon, they got the crisscrossing stories, but they're dealing with the same thing. They're dealing with change. They're just at different points where Fiona is yearning for the change. She desires it more than anything. That ennui is starting to really kick in. And so she's dealing with it, but Simon is on the opposite end of it. He's been through it all. He's had the wild and crazy and wacky adventures, and now all he wants is to spend more time with Betty. That's all he can think about. It consumes his brain. And since if something's going to consume his mind, that universe is in there. And so what's great is Simon basically manifested Cake, and it's Adventure Time always has this sense of like things worked out the way they were like supposed to, quote unquote. So like while Simon's doing all the rituals to try to bring Betty back, he summons Fionna and Cake, who that's not Betty, but in an inadvertent way through their adventures, he gets to see Betty Golb again, and he really gets to deal with the past and his mistakes and really let go of all that hurt. And he does it in a couple of really interesting ways. One, he talks to her, but then two, she sends him to the two characters from Distant Lands, the BMO episode. They're the ones who go find the King of Ooo, BMO. It's one of Jake's. This is what's so great about Adventure Time is
video game.
it's the video. It's the book video game thing.
Yeah.
But so the two characters are from the BMO Distant Lands episode. The big one is one of Jake's descendants because in Adventure Time, Jake has like 12 kids that all have crazy and wild powers because he breeds with Princess Unicorn or Rainbow Unicorn. Rainbow Corn.
Princess
Well, I don't remember her name. So, but they breed and they have all these offsprings that can do all these wild and crazy things. So now in the future, so many of the characters are half dog magical beasts. And it's
Jake is
so
Genghis Khan, basically.
he took over. It's crazy. But so that's who these characters are. And Simon goes through the book where he, at the end, he learns the lesson. They're like, well, you just went through the whole choose your own adventure only following the one character. You didn't ever follow what Betty wanted. And then that's when he learns, he was like, I am the one who messed this up. It wasn't all fate and circumstance and the war and all the, it was me. I really was the one that ended up separating the two of us. And I didn't appreciate the time that we had, and I should have given up some of that control. And there's a beautiful scene where he goes through the memory of their parting, or not their parting, of him stopping her from going on her trip, her thesis study she was going to go on his adventure. And it's just such a beautiful tale because, like I said, it's being told from both ends. It's like Fionna, who's at the start of that adventure, and Simon, who's like
at the end of it.
At the bitter end of it. It's God, it's brilliant.
Yeah, there's a really poignant moment because they sort of replay that scene twice, and the first time he's telling Fiona about Betty and about like essentially going through the whole story and how she didn't go on the trip for him, to stay with him basically. And Fiona asks like before he gets tells her that bit of information, Fiona goes, "So you ended up like getting on the bus and going with her?" And he goes, "No, why would I do that?" And it's like it's such a punch in the gut of like get out of like your one track mindset. It's like a pretty misogynist view, and
Yeah.
like
No.
as a viewer, even be like, yeah, it's very easily something he could have done, but
Dismissive. He
yeah, super
dismissed it like, why would I? No, that's not what we did.
that one stuck out to me.
But it's so great because then, like, and I don't know this is what it's intended to, but like Simon really, especially in this, like kind of mirrors like addiction, because like he's addicted to that crazy the power, if you will, and it's the carefree lifestyle, the no worries. If he has the crown, he doesn't need to be thinking about Betty this whole time and getting her back. He can just be wild, crazy ice king. And so that's like a drug addict. Like if you're doing like they crave that again, even when they're sober, they're like, I just want to go back to that. And so Fiona for a while is being like a fucking enabler. She's like, we're getting that crown and putting it on your head. We need to save our world. And by the end of it though, she really learns like, damn, is what I had that bad? Which is what Simon needed to learn about him and Betty. She's able to be like, dang, was my life with Gary and Marcellus like was it really that bad? What was I complaining about?
Yeah. And so this is maybe another important plot point, or this is the driving plot, not necessarily the emotional plot of the series, is that Fiona and Cake are figments, literal figments of Simon Petrikoff's imagination.
That Prismo.
That Prismo has, off the books, created a universe for that's non-canon, and so
It's
so there's like a police force, and the villain is this scarab who's trying to hunt them down. Wikipedia calls them a multiversal auditor who hunts down Fiona and Cake to get rid of this. They're the TVA, trying to get rid of.
yeah,
this
literally.
they're a branch that shouldn't exist. So that's sort of the multiversal angle of the story. But I think Gary, which is the bubblegum princess gender bent version, and then Marshall Lee, which is Marceline. That's another one of the prominent relationships, important relationships in this. At the end, or I know towards the end of Adventure Time, Marceline and Princess Bubblegum are a relationship that we also explore in Distant Lands, I believe.
We see that in Distant Lands, but then we even get I think this is so funny. At the beginning, Simon calls Marcy to be like, hey, like, what are you up to? And she's like, oh, we're on vacation. We're getting tattoos. And it's funny. She can't get a tattoo because she's a vampire and just heals. And it's like stuck in her bubblegum arm. But so fucking realistic. Like you have a best friend and they get in a relationship and you're just like, oh, I'm feeling real alone right now. Like it's just so human. They take this wild fantasy world and they add such human elements to it that it's such a strong and poignant story. But so, exploring their relationship was really fun because it somehow, like, while Fiona and Cake are trying to literally save their whole world and the multiverse, like, you know, Gary and Marshall are just falling in love.
Marshall is voiced by Donald Glover. Gary's voiced by Andrew Rennell's
Not Neil Patrick Harris.
No, not Neil Patrick Harris. Was he the
original voice of Gary?
Andrew Rennell's, though, you would probably recognize. I'm trying to think of. Okay, a couple credits. On Broadway was in Hairspray, Jersey Boys. I feel like he was in Girls.
Oh, I mean,
yeah, HBO's Girls, Black Monday.
He did
Netflix's Big Mouth, and Amazon. William Clockwell on Invincible. I don't know who that is.
All right, that's good.
You'd recognize him if you saw his face.
Yeah. Well, Gary's whole passion is making pastries, but there's a spin on it. He likes making them into little characters,
Little guys.
similar to someone else we know, made of pink. She just creates, yeah, she literally just creates candy creatures. It's just so fun, little nods at the old thing. Like, you don't need to know that about Princess Bubblegum, like that she made all the candy people. And it's fun. It's great. And then Marshall knows two characters, the lemon carbs, which is lemon grab gender bents, who are played by two famous drag queens, Cree Summer and Jinx Monsoon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're famous. I think they run that podcast. You probably have seen them like react to stuff, and it's like a pretty famous podcast. I'm pretty sure.
It's ringing a bell.
Yeah.
Okay, we were wrong. Pendleton Ward is involved in this. He voices the human version of Lumpy Space Princess.
Oh, I knew he was involved. He worked on it too, didn't he?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh no, he's not on the story. Okay, I did know he was a voice, so I guess I assumed he was involved. But yeah, he plays Ellis Pete, which is a great way to say LSP.
Yeah.
Lumpy Space Princess.
I did not know Ron Perlman voices the Lich. Holy shit.
Dude, big time. Big time, dude. Ron Perlman. Like, and it's the most terrifying thing. The Lynch has the most terrifying speeches in like all of cartoondom, in my opinion. Because also, if you can hear him, you just have to. So if he says like stop, you can't move. If he says like, so he's absolutely terrifying. And so in the multiverse, we get to see a version of the Lich that won. He completed his mission. Yeah, he's on his farm.
Literally Thanos.
He's lost all his purpose. It's like such a multiverse, like, oh, look at this one possibility that could happen. You could complete your mission and be devout of purpose after that.
Yeah. This one's nothing to scoff at either. Felicia Day as Betty. What was the super popular web series she was in? She's in
Original
best known for hosting Critical Role. But she was famously in a web musical with Neil Patrick Harris that I'm struggling to find now. I'll come back to you with it.
Okay. Yeah, she's the original voice.
Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. You ever watch that?
Oh, I think like a long time ago. It's
July
old,
2008.
right?
Yeah, it's old.
Oh yeah. Then I've definitely seen it, but it's been years.
It's
since
like
I've
one of
seen
those
it.
early viral things.
Early viral videos. Okay. Yeah, and she plays, like I said, she plays Betty in Adventure Time. But she's not in it till later because, like I said, through the mysteries of time travel, she gets plucked from the timeline and brought to present day Ooo. But so, like, what a tragic story! The love of your life just goes missing. But then you see her all these thousands of years later, and now she wants to cure you of your craziness. It's adult themes for a kid show.
Do they have a conversation at the end? Because he's talking to Gull, or do they have it through like the hallucination flashback?
I think they have it through the hallucination flashback.
That sequence was, all of that was just like holy shit. And then zoom out to like he's just staring at the huge fucking
The thing that also killed him almost. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want out of like Eternals too. It's like them talking to those giant motherfuckers.
Yeah, literally. But that is, I mean, that's Gull, and for all intents and purposes, that's God. That is that
chaos?
is
Is that what Gull's
it's like
name?
a chaos god, I think, though. So
Okay.
it's heavy stuff. But so they travel to multiverse. There's a cool, badass scarab in a red suit that is hunting him down, and I was like, I'm kind of on his side. He's so cool.
Did the series start? No, series didn't start with them, but I think maybe like episode 2 opens with the scarab in the tea shop or something. One of the early episodes. And I was like, what a way to introduce this fucking villain. Like immediately, super compelling, super badass, just super memorable.
I agree. He really sticks out to me in a good way.
Yeah.
And he very much like the TVA gets caught up in bureaucracy, like management. It's great. It's so fun to watch, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we could go on about this series. Like all of it's there. There's the early episodes are kind of a fun romp through the multiverse. But through it all, you get this super emotional, super funny storytelling. It's enriching even if you don't have the background knowledge of the world of Ooh, but also it's just a great viewing experience altogether because I don't really have that. Um,
Yeah. You know what? I'm just now because I'm looking at Wikipedia. We can start to wrap up here. I have a question, but so each episode is titled after someone. Fiona Campbell, Simon Petrikoff, Cake, the cat Prismo, the Wishmaker, Destiny, which is little Destiny in the farm world who falls in love with the rival gang person,
okay.
the Winter King, who is that good version of Simon that ends up being the bad guy. Total Simon move to try to make himself look like the hero the whole time. Thought that was great. The Star is what they call Marceline in like that post-apocalyptic version of Ooh, where she was ruling everything. Marceline. Jerry is what BMO calls the Lich, which I think is so funny because as soon as he goes, "That's my friend Jerry," I knew instantly. I go, "That's going to be important." I go, BMO's always naming things incorrectly. I don't know who that is, but it's not Jerry. Then Casper and Nova, who are the book Choose Your Own Adventure. But then episode 10 is called Cheers. And the whole thing of Cheers is like, where everybody knows your name. And each episode is the name of someone.
That's a nice touch. I can't.
That's fucking amazing. I'm sorry.
awesome.
I got like goosebumps when I was like reading all this.
Yeah, hot off the
Can we get a
press with that
clip?
realization.
Yeah.
Give me 5 minutes. I'll cut it together
Yeah.
right now.
Holy shit. Okay. Couple quick questions run through. Who was your favorite character, you think, throughout the whole thing?
Probably Simon Patrick. I mean, okay. Everything aside, Scarab was just cool as fuck. I loved the Scarab. Everything about his vibe
The villain, sick.
was sick. Yeah. But Simon Petrikoff, Tom Kenny
Yeah.
just blew me away in those final episodes. Especially that like final conversation with Betty. So that's my vote. Who's yours?
It's probably Simon. But if I'm gonna go different from you, just because I really liked Cake, and I know she was the B character of it all, but she had a really great story of, especially as a cat. One, she was super realistic when she was in her cat form, the noises she makes and then her mannerisms. But once she gets her thing, it's very much helping Fiona work through a lot of her emotions and feelings, much like an emotional cat, support cat would. So really enjoyed Cake, and I think Cake is just hilarious. So I was all about it.
One random thought I had about the series as a whole.
Yeah.
Wasn't afraid to kill off characters. I mean, granted, they were multiversal characters, but still, like, I guess this is one minor spoiler, but they're in, I think, the BMO episode, at one point, he just explodes, and I was like, oh.
BMO. Yeah, BMO died.
Sorry.
Totally forgot about that. That was so sad, though.
Yeah, it was really sad because he's like, oh, they go, well, where are Finn and Jake? And it's like, oh, they left a note, they'll be coming back. But I think the implication is that, like, they died. Or
yeah, because that's way in the future. That was not. Yeah, they had died. They were gone. The Lich got them all.
Around, yeah.
But BMO, that's part of BMO's charm, though, is he's always just putzing around. And he mentions football. Football is his reflection in the mirror. He doesn't understand what it is, so he calls it football.
BMO,
that's
cute
football.
character. I don't know if he's enough to quarterback his own distant lines special.
Yeah, that's a good point. People love BMO though. I think it's because BMO has some really strong solo episodes in Adventure Time,
which I haven't seen. So you know, one of these days
But it's 11 minutes versus a distance lands. Yeah, I get what you mean.
As someone who has a podcast, co-hosts a podcast about cartoons, I think I just have to watch it at some point.
You have to.
Once I get through,
you must.
One Piece, maybe I'll do all the Adventure.
Okay, talk to you in 10 years from now. Okay. And then so his favorite character, the Scarab was sick too. And then just kind of to let's do closing thoughts and our letterbox at the same time.
Okay. Do you have thoughts ready to go? I can kind of
I can go. So with Fiona and Cake, I've said a lot of what I feel, but just to reiterate, like the strongest points I feel in a time where spin-offs and remakes are just like utter trash and happening left and right now, this was so refreshing because it progressed the story in such a natural and nice way, and it did not undo any of the work that came before it. In fact, it celebrated it. Even if, say, they hated Distant Lands, they incorporated those in so beautifully. And they didn't, even though Finn made an appearance, they were not going to let Finn be the main character, even for an episode. Like, they unapologetically told such a beautiful story about growth, change, acceptance, and in a super meta way, the themes of the Fionna and Cake, the gender bentness of it all was so nice, and it's all just so on brand for Adventure Time. Like, this is what they've been doing for 13 years now. It did not feel like this was handed off to someone else and like a totally different product. This felt like very much a baby of our baby. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Oh, 5 stars.
5 star?
I was blown away. I was absolutely enthralled from start to finish. I joined watching live about episode 4 or 5, but then instantly started watching them as soon as they would drop. It was a lot of fun. And then the last 2 episodes dropped on the same day, and I fucking had a little party. And the ending was beautiful too. And ready for this? I don't think it needs a sequel, season 2, but I think it could happen, and it'd be fine. But I don't think it needs it at all.
Yeah, I don't think it needs it. We've touched on a lot of the strengths of the series. It's super funny, super well written, packs an emotional punch. Kind of going off what you said, one of the things this franchise specifically has done, what these storytellers have done, is they are masters of expanding, world building, adding on, but they're also masters of restraint. They do not yield to like the instinctual like drive towards nostalgia and wanting to give more Finn, more Jake, that kind of thing, as opposed to something where like on Twitter right now we're seeing that Marvel wants to bring back the original Avengers cast. It's like
you're right. They focused on probably 2 of the tiniest, smallest characters that weren't even real.
Yes.
Like they were like, we're going to take 2 non-canon characters. They literally call them non-canon in there.
Yeah.
Wow. They're like, we're going to take these 2 characters and we're going to tell a whole ass story.
Yeah. It's such a great addition to, what I know of Adventure Time, which is not a ton, what you know of Adventure Time, which is all of it. But it's also a great standalone viewing experience. It's delightful. I'm going to give it 4.5.
Oh, if you had said 4, I was going to fight. I'll take 4 or 5. I'll take 4.
That's a 90%. That's great.
4.5 is good. 4.5 is good.
I think maybe the nostalgia might have pushed me a little bit over, but
4.5 is, I will take it. If you just said 4, I was going to argue for like, I need 0.25 more. What I also, while we're just wrapping up on it, I think what this also has done is because like Adventure Time ends and I was like, wow, so good. I love when a thing ends and it ends properly. And then Distant Lands, and I was like, oh, what? We literally just wrapped up. And I enjoyed a lot of Distant Lands, though. So I was kind of like, oh, okay, you know what? All right. I doubted, but they were good. And then this comes out, and I was like, what are we doing here? We are literally just grabbing at the cash teat now.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and I was blown away. I'm seated for whatever. And I almost hope it is something different, if that makes sense. I kind of keep doing this. I actually applaud this almost more than just like, oh, we'll do 7 seasons of this now.
Yeah. I think because I felt that the Distant Lands ones were hit or miss, I think they ended on the little candy guy, right? Which wasn't my favorite.
No, they ended on Finn and Jake going to the afterlife.
Okay. All right. So that was a good one. I think any further additions to the story, I'm more open to than I was maybe after the second Distant Lands.
Were you gonna watch this if I didn't text you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
think
good,
so.
good.
Yeah.
I do like to be a convincer, but that's I'm glad. Yeah, that's fine.
I have enough time on my hands in the mornings at least.
Hey, he's just not catching any of the music or sound. I'm just kidding.
True. True. Should we do news? There's probably a lot of stuff.
Yeah, let's wrap up with some news. We've had a whole month of things going on. So I think first and foremost, we just shared the trailer. Let's talk about the cast of The Boy and the Heron. Oh, excuse me. Is it The Boy and the Blue
No,
Heron?
The Boy and the Heron. You're right.
Okay, I confused myself. Is it a blue heron? Wait, what's going on? Okay, I don't. We didn't get to discuss this cast live, so the English dub for The Boy and the Heron, Hayao Miyazaki's last film, quote unquote.
It's not
last
even his
film.
last. He's already working on new.
I know, but that was how it was announced to me, so it will be referred to until otherwise. It is Christian Bale, Florence Pugh, Rob Pattinson, Dave Bautista, Gemma Chan, Willem Dafoe, Karen Fukuhara, and Mark Hamill.
And Mark Hamill's voice is in the trailer. I think it's one of the first ones. I don't know if you watched it yet.
That is stacked. That is unbelievably one of the most stacked casts of any movie I think I've ever seen.
And so they just dropped the English dub trailer because that releases nationwide December 8th. And there's a crazy, the Heron has a crazy fucking voice. And there are 2 people on that cast list that I would have, maybe 3 that I would have guessed before who it actually is. I would have thought it was Willem Dafoe.
Yeah,
I watched it one time and I was like, oh, that's Willem Dafoe. Sounds like Willem Dafoe. He's being a little
does.
different. If not, my second guess would have been Mark Hamill. If not that, I probably would have gone Christian Bale. But no,
I was going to say, I thought a world where it was Christian Bale.
that makes more sense to me than this crazy fuck. Because it sounds like Willem Dafoe, but it's Rob Pattinson doing a Willem Dafoe. It's like, come here, boy.
It is Rob Pattinson
Follow me to the
doing Willem
underworld.
Dafoe. Okay, but look at this. Not that everything revolves around superheroes, but we got 2 Batman. We have Dave
got
Bautista,
Drax.
who's Drax. We have Florence Pugh, who's the new Black Widow. We have the Green Goblin, and we have Mark Hamill, who's the Joker.
Gemma Chan is
And Gemma
Eternals.
Chan's in Eternals.
I also think she was in Captain Marvel as a different character. I don't think, like, canonically, I think she was just casted.
You're blowing my mind. You're blowing my mind, but
don't.
that's whatever. Okay. But and just like some of these people are already great voice actors, but some of them aren't really known for voice acting. But I gotta be honest, I just watched Midsommar with Florence Pugh. Holy shit, was that an experience? Have you ever seen that?
I don't like spooky stuff.
It's okay, but it's spooky in like the sense more like Get Out.
Sure.
Spooky.
Still not my favorite.
Like a psychological thriller. You like Get Out though, right?
Yeah, I like Get Out.
You should watch this.
Yeah.
Holy, you're gonna be mind blown, dude. It's
Um,
Florence Pugh though. She elevated like 17 levels in my book. Like phenomenal actress.
I double checked. Gemma Chan played Minerva, one of the blue people in
What?
Captain Marvel.
Continuity, my ass, Marvel. That's one of the things they used to tout. Look, I'm trying not to do any Marvel news because they just dropped like 6
We got to
bits
talk
of
about
news
all
just
of it.
yesterday.
We got to talk about
No.
all of it. There's so much news to catch up on.
That's what I'm saying is we got to talk about other news before we
Okay,
just
fine.
deep dive into all the fucking Marvel stuff.
In other news, still a little bit of a pivot. Joe Russo's got beef with Martin Scorsese over his comments about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He took a playful dig at Martin Scorsese. He made a TikTok with his dog called Oscar. Joe Russo responded with one calling his dog Box Office, and people are flaming Joe Russo because outside of Avengers Endgame, which is one of the highest
Top 5
earners of all time, but outside of that, he's got nothing to his name. Gray Man was mediocre. I think Cherry on Apple TV Plus got panned, and that had Tom Holland in it. So yeah, I stay in your lane, Joe Russo. I think there are a couple directors, Zack Snyder specifically, and Jon Favreau, who have taken Scorsese's comments in stride. They're like, yeah, he can say whatever he wants. Zack Snyder in his interview was like, I'm sure he's not talking about mine, but yeah, he can say whatever he wants. It's like, yeah, that's how you take it in stride, you know?
I think you just say like you make a good superhero movie. If you're offended by his comments, it's
ringing
because
true.
you're feeling, you're feeling some type of way about what he's saying.
Yeah.
If you're confident in the product you're putting out, there's no reason to be quaking in your boots.
Yeah.
My bit of news, it's week by week, but on Amazon, Invincible season 2 is finally starting. I feel like we covered this 2 years ago, Evan.
Yeah. And the run up to this release has been going on for probably a year now.
Yeah.
I remember like 2-3 months ago, I'd see like tweets like, finally, they're going to debut the trailer. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? That shit annoys me
We've been
so
talking
much.
about this for so long.
The trailer is the announcement, guys. Like, fucking get to it.
Oh, you know what? I'm actually totally with you. I can't stand tweets that are like trailer drop. I've even seen, I think I just saw it for War of the Planet of the Apes. They're like, teaser trailer dropping tomorrow. And it was actually really short. And I was like, you're shitting me. They gave me an announcement for the teaser.
They do that shit. And it's also, they'll do ones where it's like, oh, they'll make a big hoorah about a teaser dropping, and it's just text on like a background. That shit pisses me off so much.
That makes me so mad. Or it's literally just one flash of a character, nothing else. You're like, dude, that was in a photo booth. What are you talking about? Oh my god. Yeah, no. What other news you got?
I'm just tacking this onto the Joe Russo thing, but there are two tweets. Variety tweeted this in quoting from their article. In 50 years, no one will know who Joe Russo is.
Wow.
Brutal. And then this one was funny. This person tweeted, whenever I hear anything about the Russo brothers, I think about this tweet. It's just a picture of the two of them. And this person saying, I feel like the little one hurts the big one when they're alone.
Stop. I feel like the little one hurts the big one. Flip side news, Martin Scorsese has joined Letterboxd.
Yes. I think that's the deal.
So we need to I need to actually start posting mine. Maybe he'll see
for sure. His daughter Francesca is on TikTok, and she gets him. It's actually really cute.
It's been endearing.
Yeah. There's a new Dragon Ball series coming out.
Oh yeah.
Dragon Ball Daima.
So what's that about? Why are they kids? What?
I don't
Is
know.
that a bad question?
I have no fucking clue. Why does anything
I gotta watch to find
Why are there
out.
still new Dragon Balls coming out?
I can't believe we are in the year of 2024 getting a brand new Dragon Ball. That's got to be with One Piece. Those have to be the two longest running animes. I genuinely believe the first Dragon Ball anime was like 1990. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, if not earlier.
If not before that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The Dragon Ball Z ended when we were like in high school with the Boo saga. Did you watch it at that time?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's when it
correct.
ended.
And it ended, but then Dragon Ball GT came out,
which is non-canonical now.
Now it's non-canonical, but at the time it was. And I'll be honest, I didn't hate. I was kind of into it. I didn't keep up with it, but when it first dropped, I was into it.
Also features a Kid Goku again. So
it's got, it does. Oh my God, Goku goes back to kid form. They really have just been
the
chasing.
Marvel problem. But here's where it went off the rails for me. I feel like after Dragon Ball Z ended, they did like Super, which I don't even know what that was. Was that just a redub?
I think Super is a condensed, like a more streamlined version of Dragon Ball Z.
And then there's been more since.
No, I think they've just continued with Super.
Okay.
I think like once they finished, they kept going, I believe. God, I could be wrong though, if I'm being honest. I actually don't know. I haven't
kept up. All I know is there's like blue hair Super Saiyan versions now. And it makes me a little sad because one of the cool things about GT is Super Saiyan 4. It was like the coolest form.
Super Saiyan 4
all
was
time.
big old monkey
Yeah.
mode. And I thought it was a great callback to the fact that
Yeah.
the Saiyans have the,
That was the coolest thing.
and I think eventually it should have been fucking a giant monkey with the blonde hair spike. That was where it was
should,
going.
yeah.
But then they totally scrapped that.
Yeah. So, I might tune in. I used to love Dragon. I used to subscribe to a
I used to
monthly magazine about Dragon Ball Z. That's how much I was obsessed.
It's an anime classic, but while I'm watching One Piece, I'm realizing it has a lot of the same problems Dragon Ball did. I think
for
it's a
sure.
product of the
Yeah.
time. It can drag on. It's
far-
very clearly written as a weekly publication, and they
Mm-hmm.
just take that week's publication and make it one episode. Where eventually animes learned, they were like, oh, we could take these 2 manga chapters and make them one episode. And then eventually, like My Hero, they're just like, something big is going to happen every episode. Like, don't worry. Like, nothing is going to drag. Like, they really learned over the years.
How far has
how
My
to
Hero
keep it-
gotten? Because I probably watched up to
You
the
haven't kept up?
tournament. And then, I fell off at...
Oh, you're
no,
missing 4
I
seasons.
fell off at, like, directly after that. It's like the summer internship. I was like, okay, this screams filler to me, dude.
Not at all. No. That needs to be the next thing you watch. I'm not even kidding.
Okay.
It's the best. It's the best anime in the world right now, undisputed. It's breaking records left and right every time it drops.
All right. I'll throw it on.
It's so good. It got Tommy, our good friend of the podcast, Tommy Pizzullo. It got Tommy into anime as a whole. Like he had
That's
never
insane.
watched really. Yeah,
Here's my rec.
it's good.
You should watch Pluto on Netflix. It's real good.
Okay.
It's
I hear it's
Blade
good.
Runner.
Give us tell.
Pluto is based off of Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy.
No, tell them what you told me.
Yeah. I'm prefacing a little bit. All right, just give me some time. Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy, old one, earliest manga anime, super popular. I think 2009. There's a manga author or artist who did like a spin-off series called Pluto, and it's set in that universe, and there's like cyborgs and robots and all. It's like future sci-fi stuff, but the series is essentially this gritty noir detective story that's like Blade Runner meets shit, it's escaping me now. Blade Runner meets True Detective, mix in a little bit of war in Iraq commentary. It's on Netflix right now. It's first episode 1's a little bit of a slow burn, but once you get into it, it's pretty solid. It's a pretty solid watch. So that's my rec. If you're looking for something to watch.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad. What else you got before we wrap up here? It's good to be back.
It's
I
good to
feel
be
like
back.
a month felt really long. Like it really shouldn't have. It's only 2-3 episodes at most a month. It felt like such a long break. I'm not gonna lie.
It was nice. I enjoyed it. Not gonna lie.
He's like, I didn't actually miss hearing you yell into your mic.
No. It was nice to have a break, unplug
Yeah.
for a little bit, but it's good to be back. I've been watching a lot of shit, and we've been sending shit back and forth just as often.
I know. The tension was building.
Yeah. Oh, Scavenger Rain is another. It's on Max right now. It's a sci-fi series. That's my rec
I
for
haven't
you
even
to
heard of
watch sometime while you're high. I think it's pretty trippy.
All right. Well, can do. Definitely can make that happen. I'm gonna wrap us up.
All
You have
right.
anything else
No.
before I take us out of here?
I'm all set.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoyed your month off, but we're back. So every other Tuesday, make sure you check us out. And if you want more Two Dudes, please check out our other episodes on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube as well. Make sure you follow us at Two Dudes Watch Cartoons on Instagram and TikTok. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube. And wherever you are, don't forget to leave us like a rate and review. And we appreciate you coming back. And we got a great schedule ahead of us. So get ready for some good animation coming.
That'll do it for this episode of Two Dudes Watch Cartoons. We will catch you next time.
Two dudes watch cartoons.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.